I'm going to approach this video a little bit differently than I typically do with my videos. I'm working in the shop here, and there's a lot going on within the shop, and it can get kind of noisy. People are in there talking, every radio going, fixing equipment. So I thought I'd just remove all the sound from inside the shed and provide this voiceover. So hopefully this translates the same and you can get the same type of benefit from it. This project that I'm working on here, it's going to be, it's not necessarily going to be all that complicated. There's one thing about the EZ-Loader I like is its pure simplicity. It's what, all they are is an articulating jib crane and with the electric over hydraulic systems on it. So it's just a matter of taking this boom apart to get it off the tripod so that I can remove the tripod and either repair it myself or take it to somebody else to have it fixed for me. So the job at hand here is basically just disassembling the entire unit to be able to pull off the boom and then pull off the tripod. So here I'm taking the hydraulics off. These hydraulics are run through the spindle. Um, I'm so happy that they designed this unit in this manner with this spinning spindle, so you can go 360 degrees all the way around without worrying about uh, you know binding up your hydraulic hoses or having to make that full circle back around so you don't kink any hoses. This just allows you to go 360 degrees all the way around the machine and not think twice about anything. What they have done is they've sent the hydraulics up through this tube, and that just allows the hydraulics to be completely centered so that it can rotate 360 degrees around. This boom is attached by axial bearings on that tube, and what I'm going to do is remove that nut that holds the bearings tight together. It's got a set key on it. On one of the it has a set key washer underneath, which is a good idea. So I just have to remove the tabs to be able to allow myself to take that nut off so that I can then remove the bearing, the top bearing, so we can pull that boom up and off the bottom bearing. I've had this boom for must be 10 years now, and I have yet to put grease on this bearing. And I was just really curious all these years and how that bearing was holding itself, because the seal underneath isn't 100%, and it's just like a silicone cap seal on the top. So I was always curious on how much moisture, humidity would get inside and damage that bearing inside. But that bearing was in relatively excellent shape. One thing about working in the shop is when a guy needs a second set of hands to be able to take something apart or lift something heavy, there's always somebody there to give you a hand. So here's my brother Adam helping me pull this loader apart under protest. He didn't want it to be filmed, so I'm doing the best I can to keep him off my film here. He's not as photogenic as maybe I pretend to be. But it's sure nice to have somebody else to be able to help with those awkward lift situations, and I take advantage of his assistance later on in this video documentary also, as we take the main arm, or the main mast apart to be able to remove that tripod. EZ-Loader uses two hydraulic cylinders to level out the tripod, which then puts that boom in a level plane to be swung all the way around the truck. And the level is done through, well, you can either do it manually just by two switches by adjusting the hydraulic cylinders manually, and they also have a auto level feature on this tripod which brings the brings that tripod automatically to a level plane, which is really nice because you can bring my B yards there. We're up in the hills here, so we're not flat, and manually adjusting it takes a little bit of time, and it's very subjective on what actually is level. So if you can press a button like they have a feature on here, it just automatically brings it to a level plane, and you don't have to worry about nothing. It just brings it level and saves a lot of time through the day. So you can see the boom. It's made from very heavy tube, very well designed, very well engineered, and I'm certain, I haven't looked for these yet from my bearing store, but I'm certain these bearings are stock. So my plan is to go and buy new bearings for this unit and buy the high quality ones. On this tripod you can see the problem here. Ignore my poor job of welding. I was out in the field with a stick welder and I couldn't get my rod in that tight spot because the boom was in place, and I did a terrible job, so I'm kind of embarrassed to even show you guys that. But regardless of that, you can see the stress points on this tripod. No cracks down the sides, but cracks are all the way around the top and starting to crack along the bottom here. So that is what we have to fix. We have to address that issue somehow, either be it just simply repairing, rewelding, grind out, reweld the gussets up the top and have a professional weld that all back together properly, or re-engineer some kind of a better plate brace that we can fit over top to eliminate that flex. I'm sure you guys can appreciate that I'm working on this easy loader, disassembling it blind. I don't quite, before I tackled this project, I wasn't quite exactly sure how they put things together and what sequence they put things together and why they did that. So as I'm taking it apart, I'm just in a sense figuring out their engineering process and their thought process as they built this piece of equipment. And my impression is they've done a very good job keeping things very basic, keeping things very simple. And that's exactly the way I like it. It's just, for me, trying to figure it out, right? I'm not a mechanic. I'm a farmer. I'm very hands-on, so I'm just logical in my thinking and trying to figure out, okay, how does this work? How am I supposed to take it apart? One of those things is these damn hydraulic hoses. How was I supposed to get them through that tube? They have a little slot in that tube to be able to fit these hoses up and through, because the crimped end wouldn't fit through. And so I called my brother over, and he said, well, these ends are twist-on ends. They're not actually machine crimped. So what I have to do, you can't salvage those, so I have to cut those off, which is no problem because I'm going to be replacing these hydraulic lines anyways. And that allows me to be able to pull through the tube and such. So I'm going to have to put it back together in the same way. The one end of the hydraulic line, I don't think I'm going to put these ends on. I'm going to get them crimped on properly, but up at the head I'm going to use this twist on function just as they've done it here, just to allow me to get those hoses up and through. And there should be no reason why they don't work just like they have over this last 10 years. Now with the crimped ends off, I'm able to pull the hydraulic lines through that tube very easily. Just like that. Now the next job I have to tackle is to remove that tripod from the main mast. Over the last forever, since I've owned the machine, I've owned this thing brand new, I've been greasing this knuckle, but I just realized that the grease has not been going through, and this pin has seized solid to the tube. And I can't budge this pin. The pin must be moving on the housing itself. So I have to get that pin out somehow, and it just will not budge. I even gone to the length of using a torch to heat along the edge or along the end of that tube just to help expand it a little bit to be able to punch that pin through. And even with my best efforts on trying to do everything I could to get that pin out, I just can't. I couldn't get it off. Every machinist, every mechanic Well, they try not to lecture you, but the easiest maintenance preventative measure that you can put towards any machine that you own, be it a boom arm like this or a combine, a tractor, whatever, is grease. Grease, grease, grease. Every maintenance schedule needs to start and end with grease. Obviously, I neglected that, and I'm seeing the consequence because of that. So now, what I have to do, because I can't get the press up on top of the unit here properly to be able to push those pins out, I have to remove this mast from the frame and put it down onto the deck to where I can kind of fish our little, we have a little bench top shop press which I can put a few tons of pressure down onto to be able to push the pins through. As a hammer's not going to do it, so we have to do it with a hydraulic press. So to do that, I have to take off the rams, I have to take off the wiring, I have to take the other pins apart, and sensors like this one here. Neat little trick just to make sure I get my wiring properly when I put it back together. And a little bit of assistance from my brother again. Called him over doing other maintenance projects within the shop, and really we need a forklift. I mean, seriously, we need a forklift in this shop or some kind of a lift hoist, but we don't right now, and for the time being we'll just have to struggle to get this thing out and onto the deck. I mean, sometimes, boy, it's worth our life, as you can see, as I'm just kind of cringing by the look of this because I know I'm standing one foot on a step ladder and the other foot on the deck, and you're just kind of trying to keep balance, and there's 100 pounds or more cradled in my arms, one slip and I'm on the ground with this thing on top of me. It's just like, ay, ay, ay. Such a farmer. But we got it on the deck and we were able to get the press into place very awkwardly. And I put a little nut on top of the pin and a couple tons of pressure, and you can see there it just pow, sounded like a gunshot. Like we had probably 2.5 tons of pressure down on that pin, and just as you can see it here, just as it moves, it's just like a gunshot, pow, 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 as she moves down. It is tight, tight, tight. So we're very able to effectively push this pin out, which is good. And the other side moved a little bit. Now they can actually swing the bloody hammer. So that other side of the pin is out, and there we go.
It's pretty dry. This pin has not seen grease, or the other one, probably since I purchased the loader, because my grease nipples were malfunctioning. I wasn't being careful enough making sure the grease was getting in, and it's not that high of a wear part that I actually noticed it made any difference or anything. There's no wear or nothing, because it was just turning on the frame itself instead of within the knuckle. So I will shine these pins up, replace these grease nipples, and make sure I keep grease on this damn thing from now on. It cost me a lot of work.
Now with the tripod free, I can take this piece and take it wherever I have to take it to be able to get it fixed up. First thing I'm going to do is grind off my embarrassing weld job before I take it to my machinist. I am not going to show him the kind of patchwork I tried to do, so the grinder will help hide that original patch job. And then I want to kind of take the paint off just to be able to see if there's any other stress cracks within the metal, just looking for metal fatigue.
That's about as far as I can get on this project right now. I've ground away my old weld job as much as I can. I couldn't get this mess in here taken out, so I'll let my welder look after that. And I've polished off all the paint, and there's definitely a crack from here all the way around here down to here, but it doesn't seem to extend further down. the shaft, but it does extend underneath. So I'll have to leave it up to his judgment and his guidance on how we're going to reinforce this properly. I have a feeling he's going to want to just simply rebuild this, weld it up, and maybe reinforce over top of it, I'm thinking. Or if I can get him to build a plate to slide over top to reinforce his entire top plate. I'll kind of leave that up to his judgment and see where we go from there.